welcome to the Movie Swatch Before You Die podcast. I am your host, Dylan, with my co-host,
Gab.
And first of all, before I even say what movie we're doing, why you listening to us, Gab? Why would a person listen to you and I talk about movie stuff?
Well, number one, you and I are awesome. Number two, we have credentials, I would say. As a former actress, I find that I am extraordinarily is maybe a high bar that I just set for myself. So I want to retract that. But I definitely have experience in character development and script analysis and in understanding what makes characters and storyline worthwhile to watch and pay attention to. And how about you?
I did go to film school. I spent a few years as a video editor, but as you said, one, we are awesome, and two, we love movies. Yes, we do. We love movies and hope that you do too. I feel like you called me Barney one time, and I'm like, I gotta make this rhyme every time now.
Okay. No, you were talking about Giselle and Barney, and I was like, that's not really that embarrassing.
No, anyway. We got into it because I made the rhyme, and I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. This is not important at all. Let's talk about what movie we're talking about today.
Here we go.
So today we are talking about, and I believe it'll be celebrating its 29th anniversary Christmas Day, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, the only animated Batman movie to be theatrically released, and I'm already convinced I'm wrong because of the Lego Batman movie. The only Batman movie in the DC animated universe to be theatrically released. Okay. I'll limit it to that and know that that's correct.
Yeah, do a little research next time, maybe.
You son of a bitch. I have so many facts written down. Oh, not cool. Okay.
All right.
But what I was going to say next is, Gab, tell me what this movie's about.
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
All right, Dylan. This movie is about Batman. And
okay.
And, hold on.
Low bar.
Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, who goes to visit his dead no, hold on. So there's a lot of subtext here in this 1993 animated movie. So this movie is about Batman falling in love with a girl named Andrea and having to decide between being in a relationship with her and being Batman. Oh, and there's a very Scooby-Doo-esque bad guy.
Okay, I guess that was a non-spoilery way of describing it. That was appropriate enough. And let's also make evident there will be severe spoilers for everything in here.
Listen, this movie came out in 1993. If you haven't seen it yet, then go fuck yourself. I don't know.
Seems harsh. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. It's on HBO Max. You don't need to go fuck yourself
while you're watching it.
Okay, again, I don't know if you need to do that. Well, you know what? Why don't we just see what IMDb said it's about?
So you're going to say, why don't we just see if they want to fuck themselves?
I mean, if you would like to fuck yourself, you're welcome to. I don't need to know about it or be included in that. So, IMDb would say that the plot of Batman Mask of the Phantasm is this. Batman is wrongly implicated in a series of murders of mob bosses, actually done by a new vigilante assassin.
Yeah, but they don't talk about the love.
People don't talk about the love enough.
I thought it was all about the love.
The tagline, The Dark Knight fights to save Gotham City from its deadliest enemy. So, I think that now that we have not so thoroughly said what it's about, we can start to give our opinions.
In this critic's opinion...
that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
I would say that as far as self-contained stories go, Batman the Animated Series is one of those things that, and I guess I shouldn't bog too much down Batman the Animated Series, did a phenomenal job of every episode would, they would call it like mini movies because they were really virtually self-contained. Now later they created this entire canonicity of things and things that reference back, but in the beginning you could pick up any episode and watch it and thoroughly enjoy it. And that's how I feel about this movie. If you never watch another episode of Batman the Animated Series, you get the movie still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that there is almost nothing that isn't near perfectly done in the movie to me. Now, I'm already in my head mentally preparing for if you say this is a movie to not watch before you die. And I'm already like, well, it's definitely a movie to watch before you die, especially if you like Batman. To me, it's a movie to watch before you die, regardless. I think the voice acting is incredible. I think the casting, I think the hand-drawn animation looks beautiful in this. I think the music, the orchestra with the choir is fantastic. I think the writing is perfect. I think you're not going to see many movies that feel like they tell you more than this movie does in 75 minutes. And I don't think there's any other Batman movie that does as good of a job understanding the character of Batman or giving him a more realistic love interest, because you see in other movies, Vicky Vale or Rachel Dawes in the Christopher Nolan movies. And do I find that believable at all? Not really. But you know what Bruce Wayne and Andrea Beaumont have? They got that shared trauma, Gab. That's what they
dead
got.
Parents. Yep.
They both got some dead parents.
Why don't you? So listen, I'm no Batman expert, but why don't you explain why you don't find those other love interests to be realistic?
Well, it's not even that they're not necessarily realistic. It's that Vicky Vale or, oh my God,
Rachel?
not Rachel, Nicole Kidman's character in Batman Forever is another good example.
Okay.
I guess the only love interest that I would say in a Batman movie that kind of makes sense is Selena Kyle in Batman Returns with Michael Keaton.
Oh, love
again,
Michael Keaton. Shout out Michael Keaton. If you're listening, and we know that you are, best Batman, in my opinion. Now, obviously,
I'll
my
say best
opinion
live
isn't worth
action
much, but
Batman. I do think that in all of these cases, these people, Vicky Vale is a reporter. The other person is a psychologist who I can see being very interested in Bruce Wayne or Batman, but not romantically. Rachel knew Bruce when they were children, and it's like Rachel went on to lead a normal life, and Bruce Wayne clearly did not. And you're like, okay, these people should not really reconnect that well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you even find out by The Dark Knight that she was never going to go back to him anyway. She was like, the Harvey was better.
Gross.
I guess what I'm saying is I can't think of another movie that has a realistic romance with Batman, and I can't think of another movie that has ever given an origin story for Batman without having to show me Bruce Wayne's parents being shot again. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to see Bruce Wayne's parents be shot in this movie. You learn everything you need to in a very simple way while getting a story that if you never knew it, you could still understand the origin of Batman fully. But knowing it, I think it gives you this great opportunity to see that there was a chance for him to not be Batman. And I think the scene that makes this movie is the scene with him at the graveyard, which there's a lot of scenes at graveyards in the movie, but the scene particularly when he is crying in the rain and he is saying, I never counted on being happy. And he wants his parents to release him from this vow. And the lightning and thunder keep striking in this ominous way of telling him that this vow that you have put on yourself is not something you can just be released from.
Yeah.
So now I've talked myself so much that I'm like out of breath, and I'm like, Gab, you say something.
Well, before I state my opinion, I want to ask a couple of questions of things that weren't clear to me. Is that okay in this segment?
Absolutely.
Okay. What year is it? Because these people are talking and they're driving these cars that are like classic cars, and they're like, yeah, say. And I'm just like, what year is it?
There is no technical year it takes place. Like, it technically takes place in the year it came out in 1993. But the Art Deco noir nature of the show is always that it has these, less modern sensibilities that it feels, more like a noir film would, where it's got that feeling of maybe 40s or 50s to it, where, there's police blimps still. I don't know why I say still, like police blimps were a common thing, but it just feels less current. And obviously, as the DC animated universe went on, they quickly acclimated to what more modern times were. But I love the gangsters with the Tommy guns and stuff like that. I think it's a cool aspect of it. Hopefully not a crucial thing that you're hanging your opinion on.
No. I was just curious because it was unclear. It was
Yeah,
unclear.
no, it's it doesn't really matter, I guess would be the real answer.
My next question is, do you remember we were freshmen in college? You probably wouldn't because it was very short-lived. Maybe we were sophomores in college, actually.
I'm like, I probably don't remember, but keep going.
I dated a guy named John briefly. Nope. You never met him. It didn't really last that long. I actually broke up with John because he kept speaking in these very like 1950s like platitudes where like I was telling him one time about my college roommate who annoyed me and he was like, wow, that girl's got more issues than Time magazine. And I just couldn't fucking take it anymore. And I broke up with him. And every line that came out of Andrea's mouth, I was like, oh my God, this is what he wanted. He wanted me to sound like this. I bet he loves this movie. And he wanted a girl like Andrea Beaumont who said all these weird, dated phrases.
Really? Because I can't think of one thing that she says that sounds like ridiculously dated when you're saying that.
Well, it wasn't ridiculously dated in the context of the film, but it was
True.
ridiculously dated in 2014 or 2010. Anyway, so that was my second question. Do you remember John? Clearly, no. I don't think you ever met him. And then the other thing, does anyone in this movie, anyone at all, use the word phantasm?
Good question. I don't think that they technically do.
They don't, and that annoyed me.
That's okay. I guess that's fine that it would annoy you. I think it would also just work with, and I would have to pull it up to prove myself. I think it would also just work with the definition of a phantasm.
Okay.
Right? A phantasm is like a figment of the imagination, an illusion or apparition. With the way that phantasm appears and the smoke and that torp of affecting, with that torp, it would seem to make more sense in that torp.
Of course, in the torp. It was just so strange to me because I was like, what a bold word choice.
I think it's a very cool name for the character.
Sure, but they don't ever say it. They don't refer to it. I don't know. I was like, no one's gonna say it.
And I think they really don't, also because they spend a lot of the movie with people thinking that it's Batman.
Sure.
Every person seems to mistakenly be like, is that the Batman? Which I kind of guess, just like figures wearing a lot of black with capes,
Yeah, similar silhouettes. All right, so let me get into it. I also want to stop and tell you that I watched this with Corey, who had seen it as a kid, a bunch, I believe, and then obviously had seen it in a long time, whatever. Pauses the movie when the hammer comes out because he says that's a ball peen hammer, and then had to Google if he was correct whether or not it was a ball peen hammer,
and
it was a ball peen
hammer.
hammer. I don't remember, but I am so fucking positive that it was during this movie and that it was a ball peen hammer because now every day he's like, oh, you want me to take a ball peen hammer? I'm just gonna have the ball peen, boom. It's been incessant. So ball peen hammer, shout out Corey on the ball peen hammer.
Good for you, Corey.
I was like, your knowledge of hammers is unmatched.
It's real. It's ball peen. You got your standard. You got your sledge. Those are top three hammers.
What about claw?
Claw hammer, that's a good one. I mean, that's the standard. Jackhammer, technically not really a hammer.
Yep, sledgehammer, jackhammer. Hammerhead shark. Shout out sharks.
That sure.
I think the voice acting was wonderful. I didn't know that Mark Hamill was the Joker. I knew that he had played the Joker, but I didn't recognize his voice.
I think it's so interesting that people don't realize that because it doesn't sound that different from his regular voice to me. Like when he laughs, sure, but his regular voice kind of sounds like it to me. But I think, if I'm reading a comic book, the voices I hear are the two of them, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, easily.
Yeah, I get that. I thought it was great. I liked that there was like a romance in it. I like that there was like a Dear John letter situation.
Which, boy, it's a short letter.
Yeah.
She's
know what
like,
pissed
too
me
young,
off, though?
Gotta go. Bye.
Yeah, it wasn't really a Dear John. It was like a yo, Bruce.
Which we know after the fact that they had to flee the country, but still.
Yeah, whatever. I will tell you what, though. I stopped dead in my tracks when he proposed to her by saying, well, you get the picture. and handed her a box with a ring in it, I immediately was like, I would be like, I'm sorry, are you trying to ask me something? Would you like to try again? Would you like me to turn around so I can come back and you can have a second
I'm just
take?
going to say, Gab, if this billionaire gets on his knee and tells you, I think you get the picture, I think you'll get the picture.
Nope.
If billionaire
Nope.
Bruce Wayne wants to marry me and just says, ring, I'll be like, okay.
Nope. You want to know why? Because
not an all-timer as far as proposals go. Yes, it is not the greatest proposal, and that is obvious that he is not the best with people.
Lazy.
Which I think is part of the point of his character, that he is not good at this. This was not in his plan. If you watch the animated series, you know that he knows how to sing, he knows jujitsu, he knows ventriloquism. Yes. What he does not know is romance. He does not know how to deal with other people that well.
But he didn't run it by Alfred first. He didn't want to get his boy's opinion on how he should do. That's like, you hear these
Alfred
stories.
Is an 80-year-old butler. How good do you think he is romantically? I'm just saying.
Well, he was his fucking romantic liaison throughout the rest of the goddamn movie. So,
and why do you think things turned out the way he did, with him being like, I don't know, just give her the ring and be like, you get the picture. Maybe Alfred suggested it.
I hated
feel
it.
like you hated this.
No, I hated the proposal. We're talking about the proposal.
I feel like I feel like
Jesus
I have
Christ.
the weight of several people on me right now. I'm like, I have to defend this movie properly.
Sure. Yeah, I know. You're like a fucking lawyer right now. The proposal really, really got me. And oh God, like,
yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be very good though. Like,
I know.
Again, I do think it's part of the character of Bruce Wayne, Batman, not being so good at this. And I think it's another thing that they point out so many times with the film, that the only plan he has had has been this vow. So he had no idea what to do when it came to anything besides that.
I guess, but you've never seen a goddamn movie? You don't know what to do. I don't know. We're getting off track here. All I'm going to say is I was like, this girl is already given up quite a bit to be with this guy who's kind of a recluse, and you're really just going to let him. I don't know. Anyway, this seems to be a personal thing. I have issues unrelated to Batman. However, I hated that. All right, so let me get down to how I felt about this movie. He's crossing his fingers in a way that is making me very uncomfortable. Dylan, I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you think that when I suggested the Lizzie McGuire movie that I thought there was a chance that you were really going to like it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, no.
Although you realistically did literally tell me that I was Payback, so I would have assumed not.
I knew you weren't going to like it. And for me, it was like a fun, nostalgic watch. Obviously, I wound up realizing that it was bad, which is not always the case with nostalgia. But it didn't speak to you. It wasn't part of your experience. It wasn't a character that that was beloved for you. And I felt the same way about this movie. It was a 75 or so minute movie that if I had watched with my little brother, I'd have been like, oh, that wasn't so bad. It had something for me. It had something for him. But I am not a comic book person. I'm not a Batman the Animated Series person. I'm not even like a big fan of animated movies. I don't really have any connection to this. And so it was good. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God, I have to turn this off. But it was just, I'm not the audience for this movie. And you kept texting me and saying like, hopefully this is the one, or this is the one. And I'm just like, I can't believe that you even thought there was a possibility that after everything we watched, that this was going to be the one. It was a fine animated Batman movie, but I don't even.
But the funny part is, Gab, with everything you're saying, I'm like, I'll take it. She didn't say it was bad. Like, because I know in my heart of hearts that for me and for, obviously people who are more into Batman the Animated Series or who are into the character of Batman, I think the only reason I thought maybe it would be for you is because I know that you'll actively talk about oh, Michael Keaton is your favorite Batman and that you love that movie. So I wasn't sure if maybe there was a fondness for the character there.
No, and I'm going to be honest with you too. I've only ever seen the Michael Keaton as Batman like one time on television with my dad in middle school. Like, I'm not like a well-versed Batman fan. I did see The Dark Knight in movie theaters when I was in middle school or high school, whenever it came out, but I didn't like it. It was just so fucking long. And I tell you that all the time, that like for me, superhero movies, like after like 30 minutes, I'm like, I can't believe it's over. And then like the rising action, and then it declines, and then it rises again. You're like, oh my God, this is the big moment. And then it's over. And I just like, I'm not big into them.
I do appreciate you just describing basic storytelling though. You're like, and then there was a climax and then it ended.
But I'm just saying, like, even in like this animated movie, there's like a car chase in like the first 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the pivotal moment. And then it's like, they just have these big, what
yeah,
feels
I think you
like,
just don't understand what set pieces are.
Ugh, get the fuck out of here. Goodbye. I'm done with you, and I'm done with this. I don't know. It wasn't for
me.
me.
You want them to do nothing for the first like 70 minutes and then be like, now here's my action moment?
But I mean, we were just talking about the Batman. I hold on, let me go backtrack and say I did see the Batman recently.
Yes.
Corey and I went to see it. And I have to tell you, it was like, there were like 3 different times when I was like, oh my God, this is it. It's over. And then like, it wasn't over. And I know that movie in particular could have been ended much earlier, but I feel like all superhero movies are like that. And this was no different.
I think a lot of recent Marvel movies. Wait, you think this movie that felt that way, that it was like too long?
No, I just think that there were moments where I was like, if this were a live action movie and we were 2 hours in, I would assume it was over, but I would know there was a whole nother act.
Are you talking about the Batman, or are you talking about this movie?
I'm talking about this movie that we're currently podcasting about.
I know, but you just said like 2 hours in, and I'm like, this movie wasn't even an hour and 20 minutes.
No, I'm saying that if this were a live action movie, I know that like that first car chase scene would have happened like an hour in, right? Like there would have been a much longer buildup. There would have been a lot more like background. And then I would have been like, oh my God, this car chase, this is the end of the movie. And then like, it wouldn't be.
I think that's something I appreciate about this movie though, is that it does feel like there is no wasted time in this movie. There's no scene in this movie that it's like, yeah, you could have cut that entirely. Like I love the Batman, but I've agreed with you before that I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's probably like a half hour too long at least.
Yeah. No. I think I'm just making a comment on superhero movies, and I'm saying
I don't think you're wrong. I specifically agree with you on like the MCU now, which is like every movie has to be 2 hours and 20 minutes or longer, and has 45 minutes of mediocre jokes with setting up the next 6 movies and TV shows. And yeah, I feel the same way about that.
Yeah,
I don't feel that way about this movie in particular, but I see.
Neither do I. But I'm generalizing these superhero things that are just really, I'm really not the audience for. I think if I had a kid, so my brother, for those listening, is 14 years younger than me. So growing up, like, you know, if he wanted to watch this and he was 7 or 8, I'd have been like, all right, well, this is better than, you know, some of the other garbage. But like, there was nothing about it where I was like, wow, that was a great movie. Like, it felt like you had me watching a kids movie, and not like an Emperor's New Groove kids movie, like I don't know. I was just like, I can't believe he thinks that this could be the one, because this is not for me in the least. And it wasn't even like there was like live actors that I could be like, well, I really appreciated his performance. Like the voice acting was really good, but like, I don't know. I don't even have anything else to contribute. Actors? So if Michael Keaton were playing Batman, I'd at least be able to be like, you know, the things that I can identify as like good performance pieces. See, that
I actually passionately disagree with that point, because I feel like one of the worst things that's happened in animation of late is there's a thing of, and I wouldn't say of late, you know, it's been a long-standing trend, but stunt casting. So like a great example is the fact that Chris Pratt is to be the voice of Mario and Garfield.
Yeah, I hate that.
I hate that too. The voice of Mario, I know for a fact, is Charles Martinet. Why couldn't he have done it? I don't know.
Weird. Also weird that you know that.
I think it was talked about a lot lately. That's, you know, I feel like I'd like to think I know voice actors a little bit. And, you know, much in the way again, at the time, there was a popular animated show starring this voice cast. I do think, you know, if they had gotten Jack Nicholson to be the Joker in this, which would never happen because I can't see Jack Nicholson agreeing to an animated movie ever, but would it have been a better performance? I certainly don't think so. Or do I think Michael Keaton would have done a better job as Batman in this movie? No, I don't think so either.
No. I don't think that the voice casting was inappropriate. I'm just saying that, like, I can at least identify and appreciate in a live action film what it constitutes good or poor acting. And because I'm not well versed in voice acting, I can appreciate how that they did a good job. But there wasn't even any artistry that I was like, oh, I'm familiar with what constitutes good and bad. And so I feel as though I have an authority on this. I was just watching a cartoon with, I don't know. I just feel so removed from this universe and these characters in this story that it felt very random to me.
That's very possible as well. Again, this is definitely a me pick. You know what I mean?
Yes,
some of these things are, sometimes I'm just making you watch a movie and sometimes you're just making me watch a movie.
Absolutely. That's what we agreed to.
Yeah. And, I think that as far as animated movies go, I do think this is not like, you said if you were watching it with your brother, this is not a movie that is necessarily, it's made for kids, but it is definitely not, it's not The Boss Baby. It's not a little
the Easter Bunny movie. What did he say that was called? Hop.
That's what it was. There are definitely adult themes to this.
Sure.
And
dead parents.
Lots of dead parents. We see Batman bleeding, which is not something you could see in the TV show, which I do think is a very,
You couldn't see it in the animated TV show?
In the animated series, you do not see blood. Maybe you do very rarely, but not like in the sense of, well, it was airing on, Fox Kids, or it was, you couldn't see people die either. You would see them fall 100, 200 feet into the water, and then they would splash down and go, ugh. You know what I mean? You had to have that survivor's gasp, that, oh, you know what I mean? Because you can't see people die on children's television.
I had no idea. I feel like that is not the case today. No?
I still think it would be very rare. And, it definitely scared me when I was a kid, and I'm sure it wasn't scary for you now, but when you see, I think it's Sal Valestra with his face, frozen after being killed by the Joker, I was like, oh snap, even 30-year-old me was like, Jesus.
Yeah. At first I thought it was a robot. I was like, it's so interesting that they made like one of those animatronic, like the Joker's wife.
Yeah.
That was chopping the, I was like, they made one out of him. And then Corey said something like, so I guess he killed him or something. He said something and I was like, oh, right. Yeah, I got it.
I also love, there's two super sick burns in this movie. And the first one is directed at Sal Valestra when he's coughing in the car and Arthur Reeves, the DA, goes, I got to get out of here. It's not very healthy. And before he shuts the door, there's just this shot of Sal with his jaw just like,
yeah, I
just find it funny every time. And the other one, I'm not sure if you remember, but I literally wrote it down because I was like, oh, that's a golden quote. And, I'm sure I'm not the first person to point it out. Still following your dad's orders? Andrea responds, the way I see it, the only one controlled by his parents is you.
Oh, I love that.
It is such a mic drop, like, oh, I think I turned over to Giselle, who I made watch this with me, and I went, and that was the first time I saw Batman lose as a child.
What did Giselle think of this?
She was like, I mean, you're not going to agree. It's not a movie to watch before you die for me, but like, I get why it is for you, And like,
yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
I can take that. That is fine. As long as you're out here being like, oh, this is obviously trash. If you can say it was not for you, I can agree with that. And we can be fine. We can move forward with that peacefully.
Okay. Well, that's where we're at. So why don't you move on to some facts?
Yes, let's get to some facts.
I want the truth! Face the facts, dokes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
So first, Rotten Tomatoes. Oh no, I normally give the IMDb score first. So IMDb score 7.8 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is 88%. Average score 4.2 out of 5. And the tomato meter is 85%. It didn't say certified fresh, which maybe Scotty Cameron, he seems to be our Rotten Tomatoes expert. He can tell me maybe it just doesn't have enough reviews, but it had an average rating of 7 out of 10 with 28 fresh reviews and 5 rotten. It was nominated for an Annie Award honoring excellence in animation in 1994 for Best Animated Film. It did lose to The Lion King, which Lion King won a lot of animation awards. The directing team was Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, who are famously the producers of the animated series in the DCAU, along with Kevin Altieri, Boyd Kirkland, Frank Parr, Dan Reba. It's written by, again, it's basically, they brought back the entire team of people who worked on the show. The voice direction was done by Andrea Romano, who is a legend in voice casting. She obviously did all these DC cartoons I've been talking about. The Boondocks, SpongeBob, Teen Titans, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toons, Freakazoid, DuckTales. Kevin Conroy in interviews referred to her as the director of the movie, which I guess as the voice director, she's the one who's leading them, while I guess the other directors would technically be leading the animators.
Yeah.
That's mostly an assumption. I don't know animation that well. Obviously, it stars Kevin Conroy, who was the definitive animated voice of Batman for 30 years and sadly passed away on November 10th. Dana Delaney as Andrea Beaumont, who was in 65 episodes of Desperate Housewives as Catherine Mayfair, was in Tombstone. And because of how she did in this, they brought her back to be Lois Lane in Superman the Animated Series.
Wow.
Mark Hamill as the Joker. I don't see him having done anything before this. I'm not sure if he was famous for anything else ever.
Yeah, a real no name.
Yeah, I don't know where they found this guy. It's Luke Skywalker. God damn it. Yeah. Stacy Keach was the voice of the Phantasm and Andrea's father, so I think that is, meant to throw people off the scent of, spoiler, Andrea being the Phantasm. Super famous actor that I feel like you probably know from something. The only thing that I knew him from was American History X, which is a movie that I showed Giselle like the first time she like slept over with me, which is so not a movie to show somebody on a date. If this were a podcast, movies to not show on a date, we'd both agree American History X is not.
Is that the Skinhead movie?
Yes, it is the Edward Norton Skinhead movie.
I watched that because after I saw Birdman, I was like, I think I'm in love with Edward Norton. And then I watched that and I was
not
like,
in that
nope,
movie. Yeah.
Nope, definitely not.
I had just seen that movie like 2 days before and I was like, this is fucking phenomenal. I have to show this to people. It's so good. I still feel that way, but it was not a movie to show on a date.
Yeah. And she married you, didn't she? God damn it.
Yeah, for some reason. Okay. Damn. Critics' consensus. Stylish and admirably respectful of the source material, Batman Mask of the Phantasm succeeds where many of the live-action Batman adaptations have failed. Had a budget of only $6 million. It was originally going to be a direct-to-video release. Box office, it was only released domestically with very poor marketing and only made $5.6 million. So, Siskel and Ebert did review this on their show a couple months after it came out, saying that it was better than the live-action movie that was out at the time, which was Batman Forever, and saying that the drawing style distinguishes the movie, and Siskel said that every minute counts in this movie. I also found it funny that he did not like Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Oh, interesting.
Which is the opposite of how most people would feel.
Yeah.
Rohan Nahar called it the Casablanca of Batman movies. Rachel Wagner from Rachel's Reviews. It's a Batman movie actually about Batman. Imagine that. Animated or not, this is the best Batman movie. Jeffrey Westhoff. James O. Ely, closer to the original comics than anything Joel Schumacher or even Tim Burton can throw at us. It's funny. I normally try and find positive and negative reviews. There were very few negative reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for this. Mark Caro from the Chicago Tribune. The violence is too realistic, though not terribly graphic, to qualify as cartoony escapism, yet the movie lacks the sophistication, vision, or satirical edge to lay claim to any higher purpose. It's merely dark for dark's sake, which I felt was harsh, but whatever. Let me see here. The Joker's confrontation of Arthur Reeves and his office hints that they know a good deal about the Beaumonts. Joker puts the pieces together about the Phantasm's identity in this scene and later tries to kill Andrea with a booby trap phone call. It's Batman who's caught in the trap, but the Joker calling the intended target Toots and Boopsie suggests who the trap was really for. The reason he never suspects Andrea's father is foreshadowed because Joker was the one to kill him all those years ago. Which I do think is a cool twist that it turns out, Joker is that random gangster that keeps growling at Andrea and such.
Yeah.
Kevin Conroy's personal favorite Batman film of his own work and in general. Robert Pattinson's favorite Batman film, allegedly. Robin's absence is explained in the novelization of the movie that he is in college.
Oh my God.
Yep, because Robin's in the TV show on and off again. Paul Dini intended each of the flashbacks into Batman's love life to have a tendency to get worse when you hope things will get better.
Sure. Well, we are running out of time, so why don't we get to the verdict?
All right, Gab, but before we get to our verdicts, I want to take a second to talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail?
We can talk about the mail all day.
Mail time! When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
First, on our Black Swan episode, we have a comment from Scotty Cameron.
Scotty.
First, I love that Vampire's Kiss made Gab's favorite movies now. Okay.
Yep.
Let's stop talking about Vampire's Kiss. That's him. That's not me. Because during
Are
the
you
middle
sure
of
you
this
don't want to
week,
keep
Scotty,
talking about it?
Gab texted me more about Vampire's Kiss, and I'm like, enough.
I actually went out of my way to listen to another podcast talk about Vampire's Kiss, and some of their theories are what I texted you about, such as perhaps the bat has rabies and this whole thing is a rabies fever dream after he is bitten by the bat.
I guess you can really come up with anything. It'd be nice if I don't think they had any intentions of anything, though. I think that is just crazy.
Yeah, I would agree. And side note, I would like to hear some of that commentary that you got from Nick Cage and the director. So if you could send that to me, I would appreciate it.
That I shall.
Thank you.
So, Scotty, I remember Black Swan because my dad had moved to a suburb called Black Swan at the time of the film's release, and my dad made a joke about the film's title after seeing a TV spot. It's been on my radar knowing Natalie won an Oscar for it. Funny enough, Despicable Me has a subplot involving the ballet Swan Lake, which came out around the same time as Black Swan. Yes, Batman Mask of the Phantasm is a masterpiece, definitely the best animated Batman and animated comic book movie ever made, and is neck and neck with The Dark Knight for the best Batman movie ever made. Love Kevin Conroy's Batman. May the one true Dark Knight rest in peace, and may Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League be the proper send-off to his legacy as the Dark Knight. Mark Hamill is amazing as the Joker. I know that you were not so enthusiastic so far about Kevin Conroy. Well, you weren't unenthusiastic about Kevin Conroy, about the movie in general.
Yeah.
It was announced not too long ago that he is going to be returning as the voice in a video game, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So that's very exciting.
So exciting.
Well, it is for the people who are obviously devastated, like me, Scotty Cameron, Keen Machine, and the tens and tens of others. No, there's actually lots of people, but
stay
it's a big
yappy.
deal. Hey,
Right?
you have no idea what that means, but yes, that's correct.
I don't, but I know when to say it.
Yes. Speaking of staying yappy, let's go to an email we have from Keen Machine.
Okay.
Subject, Black Swan. Greetings, Dylan and Gab. Great episode as always. I am familiar with Swan Lake, but not this film. I think we've had 1 out of 13 or 14 episodes that Keen Machine has seen. So
I know.
We'll get to more that you've seen, I'm sure. Sounds very thought-provoking. I cannot express how thrilled I am to hear you two review Mask of the Phantasm. I'm not sure how thrilled you are now that we're most of the way through this review, but hopefully you will be thrilled with parts of it. But I'm also terrified to hear the final verdict. Also, Gab, I will happily sing Phineas and Ferb songs with you anytime. That show was elite. Until next week, keep it keen.
Yes, it was elite. Honestly, best kids television show I've ever seen. I loved it even now as an adult. So absolutely. We could talk about that all day, but obviously it's not a movie, although they have a movie. So
I feel like Phineas and Ferb is just a little bit too young for when I was watching cartoons like that.
Yeah.
From what I have occasionally seen of it, it does seem very funny.
It is brilliant. It is. So my brother was the perfect age for it, but I loved it. And my parents loved it. It's very funny and very mature in its childish humor. I
always appreciate kid stuff that is not made solely for kids. I feel about Batman the Animated Series, that it was good enough for adults to watch too. Okay. So I think that's a perfect transition to get back on track to our verdicts for Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which I'm sure Gab is in love with and will say is a movie to watch before you die.
Yep. Also, Ball Peen Hammer. Shout out Corey.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Back to the episode.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence to death.
So obviously we're going to be at an impasse on this one. And it's fair. You're not the audience. It's not, made to be seen for the first time when you are a 30-year-old woman. Not, you might surprise me right now, but I'm going to say for me, it is obviously a movie to watch before you die. If you are at all a fan of this character, of animation, of Batman.
I will say this, Dylan. You are somebody that I'm one of the people, one of my top 5 people in the world. I love you. You are like a brother to me. I guess I'm happy that I watched this, so I at least feel like I understand something a little bit better that you like, but I don't have anything to contribute. I don't even feel like it's fair of me to give an opinion on this. It is not for me. I don't know anything about it. I'm not really, which I guess isn't fair. You don't have to know the subject matter to say whether or not it's a movie to watch before you die, but I don't think I am qualified to even say one way or the other. So I'm going to go ahead and say that personally, for me, it is not a movie to watch before you die, but I'm really glad that you got to watch it and that it made you happy for 70
I'm glad
minutes.
it gave me an excuse to watch it again. And I will say, I do think when you compare it to other Batman movies, that this should be very much near or at the top to me.
Sure.
Fair enough. So obviously, I feel like this was very much an episode of Dylan's just going to talk about the movie he likes. So I think the next movie that I want to go with, because you've never seen it, because I think it's obviously a movie to watch before you die, but we've seen how that goes for both of us, is Die Hard.
Okay. All right.
So
that's fair.
Before we get to Die Hard, and if you want to reach out to us, you can find us on anchor.fm/movies to watch to leave a voice message, or you can email us at where, Gab?
Movies to watch before you die @gmail.com. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We are running out of time. My name is Gab.
I'm Dylan. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
You still following your dad's orders?
The way I see it, the only one in this room controlled by his parents is you.